Hello, Natalie.
Hi, how are you?
I am very well, thank you. To everyone who is watching, this is the first in a series of videos that I want to do where I have discussions with people that I find very interesting, and will be about all things mind, body, soul, spirit, everything. Um, anyone who knows me knows I have a huge interest in all of these things. Natalie and I met actually fairly recently, and through a mutual friend. And I came to realize that she's a tarot reader. And I know tarot gets a bad press in lots of circles, but I find it fascinating and I want to find out more about it. So I've written down some questions for Natalie. I'm not going to do a big intro because just want to get into the meat of the conversation and just riff off of each other and just see what comes out. And then towards the end, we can then just find out a little bit more about you, where people can find you if they're interested, and all that kind of stuff, if that works.
Amazing, thank you. Yeah,
Excellent. So I'm probably going to be looking down a little bit because I've got a raft of questions.
that's cool.
This is going to be a series called Questions on My Mind, of which this is the first. So, Natalie, I think I'm going to start with actually, what is tarot all about? What is it supposed to be?
This is my perspective, and obviously, it'll vary from person to person you go through. But what I found, and from my whole journey with tarot, is guidance, is the ability to visually interpret the energy. For example, as an intuitive tarot reader, I read energy. So the current energies, like in in the whole universe, everything is energy. So everything vibrates its own frequency. Um, and with the superpowers, and I say superpowers in a sense of empathic abilities, and that ability to be able to pick up energies in a room. Um, so it's not really superpower, but that's the way that I would sort of look at it.
Yeah.
Um, it gives you the ability to visually see what the energies are bringing. Let's look at me with the cards for you. This was my first deck. This is an oracle deck, and it gives you that ability to just visually describe the energies, especially when you're first realizing that you can read energy. It sort of gives you that visual aspect. Um, and it basically brings you guidance and messages from the higher realm, your higher self, um, to positively impact your future. Now, I know you'll speak to people and they'll say there's bad cards. I don't feel there is a bad message, a bad energy to come from tarot. It basically just reads the energy as it is at this moment, if that's what you're pulling, or future. Um, However, whatever question you ask the spread is bringing you that energy. So nothing's set in stone. It's not going to say, oh, you see the death card, so someone's going to die, things like that. It's misinterpreted a lot in them senses, but it brings you that visual tool to be able to understand the current energies.
So you were saying reading energy, but then you also talked about higher realms. And I think that's where people get
Yeah,
a bit
it is. It
nervous.
can be quite confusing. Um, when I say reading energy, what I mean is what we intuitively pick up. So, like you walk into a room, for example, and you sort of get overwhelmed with these feelings. Well, that's your body picking up them codes of energy from them different people, things, whatever it is you're picking energy up of. And your higher self passing messages down is through your intuition. So them feelings, them gut feelings, them intuitive feelings are brought to you from your higher self. Um, which when you don't understand it, or you don't identify that that's you reading energy, is difficult because you get overwhelmed with all these different kinds of emotions. And the more you trust that that's your intuition, your higher self bringing messages through you, it's easier to understand that them, like, array of high, low, different kinds of emotions are coming to you because you're picking up on energy from all these different sources. And the thing is, everything is energy. That's people, places, items, things. Everything is energy. And that is ultimately what we are picking up on, is that cord that attaches us to that energy source.
So you could be in a room,
Yeah,
but no one else is in, but there's energy in that room.
yeah, yeah. For example, one of the things that along my journey, and I pick up on numerous things, and the more, like I said, the more we trust it, right, the stronger it gets, the more messages we get, the more our intuition tells us things. It's because we trust in it. Do you know what I mean? We're putting that trust. Like, I'll visit places of history local to me. For example, it's called Brecon Reservoir, which is not far from me. And it was actually back, throughout the war. And there was no one there. It was just the reservoir, and there was trees, and there was like rocks. And I kept having this vision of children playing and stacking these stones. I didn't know at the time it was a thing they done to occupy their time. And I was having that energy through me. I was having these visions of these kids just stacking these stones. Well, when I come from there, I felt not drained, but I felt like I'd, connected. It does sort of drain your energy. And when I come back, I researched the area and, its history. And it turns out that the reservoir I was at was actually a meeting place for the local community. I say hundreds of people, however many people lived in that community, they're small villages. And that's what the children used to do, was stack stones and see how high they could get them. And that was the vision I was having. So that was the energy of that place being brought through me, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
That's just one example, but it goes for whatever room or item, whatever, everything holds energy.
yeah. Okay, so the energy you could be picking up on, and
No, you say it. You
we're
say
probably going to go
it.
really deep here now.
You thinking it, someone's thinking it. You say it, go on.
There's different realms. So you could be picking up on lower energies or
Yeah,
higher energy.
yeah, yeah, 1,000,000%. And when you pick up on the lower, and when we say lower, I mean like negative kind of energies. However, personally, I've never ever had any kind of circumstance where it's been a dangerous kind of energy, or it's been, I have had it where it's made me feel sad and it's made me feel drained. But I've never had like a dangerous energy, if you get what I'm saying. Um, that's the lower vibrational energy, and that's the worst I've come from a place or picked up on an energy of, is the sadness and, depression or that kind of energy. I've never had like I say dark because I can't speak of that, because that is not something that I wouldn't even think about,
Yeah.
going in. It's not something which is on my level, and I've never had an experience to comment on it. But the lowest vibrational energy I've picked up on is like picking up from people's sadness and the feelings of suicide. That kind of lower vibrational energy. But other than that, I wouldn't say that that it's dangerous in any way, shape, or form.
Okay. So you're not claiming to be speaking to God per se, or to be a prophet of
No,
any sort, or
no.
okay. It's purely,
I will say, yeah, it's purely reading the energy. It's purely reading the energy. I will say, I come from a religious background myself, and I was brought up in the Christian church. I went to a Christian school. I attended church on a weekly basis. I will say that there is a very strong link between Jesus and his healing abilities to spirituality. And for example, I'm not saying I'm Jesus in any way, shape, or
Yeah,
form,
yeah.
but I'm saying that is very much the same sort of principle, in a sense of helping people. And like Jesus would go in and make people better, essentially. And I do feel in spirituality that is the same sort of ability. Do you know what I'm not saying
Yeah.
in any way, shape, or form that it's Jesus, but that I would say is the very strong link between spirituality and every religion, because I do feel there's a lot of truth in all religions,
Yeah.
but it's just different people's perspective of their experience, and it very much so is their truth. You know what I mean? So there's a very, very strong link in that sense.
Yeah. Okay, so when people ask for a reading,
Hmm.
are you reading their energy? And the reason I'm asking this is because I've seen, like, on some of your lives, people might ask very specific questions, like, is so and so going to call me tonight?
Yeah.
Or yeah, that kind of thing. Now, from what I understand, you can't really, or you shouldn't, tap into anyone's energy without
Without consent.
without
Yes, spot on.
consent. So therefore, how would you be able to tell whether that other person that they're referring to is going to call them or
Yeah,
not?
definitely, and 1,000,000%. That is one of the massive unwritten rules, and I say that in apostrophes because there is, everything should be consensual, in a sense of, you can't, if someone's not asking for a reading, you can't just go and tap into their energy. And that's something I've learned along the way. Not everybody wants this, and not everybody wants to know, even if they are spiritual. Some people don't want it. When I'm doing a reading, for example, and someone says, and I have it all the time, especially on social media, because 80% of the energy, people want love readings. They want to know, is my person coming back? Is my person, do you know what I mean? And what I do is I tap into that person that's asking me, I tap into their incoming energy and how their current energy is sitting. The majority of the time, and this is 90% of the time, a lot of people, I would go, I'd read their incoming energy and their current energy and advise that person to work on their energy and work on raising their vibration to allow things to come in, rather than saying, yeah, this person's going to call tonight. I do, however, use a pendulum, which is like a communication tool, which goes, it gives you a signal whether it's yes or no. Purely because them questions, I'm not going to lie, especially because I'm still quite early on in my journey going live, you put on the spot. You are really put on the spot.
Yeah.
And them kind of questions did make me feel uncomfortable, because the tarot deck does not give you a yes or no answer.
Yeah.
A tarot deck will advise you on the energy, and it can go either way. It could be a yes now. You could make a free will decision tomorrow, which would change that energy, so that ultimately that answer would change. Which is why I always try and keep my readings to the current or future energies, and go from there, working with them energies rather than focusing on that direct outcome, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And what I think, what I find is, if you just remain open and just ask generally for guidance,
For
you get
guidance.
so much more than if you just say, is this specific thing
Yeah.
gonna happen?
Yeah, and you wouldn't believe the questions I've had off people. One woman, and I worked on a phone line for a while, and in a sense, I felt like I stopped doing it because I felt like it was taking advantage of vulnerable people, because they're ringing up and the kind of specific questions you know, and the thing is, when you're in that kind of energy, when you're open and you're just asking for general guidance, the reason it comes and you get so much more from it is because you are open. You've got no expectation. you're putting out that open energy. When you've got them specific questions and them specific, it's almost like a desperate energy. So the universe, source, however you want to resonate with that, picks up two energies. It picks up negative and it picks up positive. When you're putting that kind of specific question in, that's putting in that desperate energy. Do you know what I mean? So then the answer that you get back is going to be from that desperate energy, because what we put out to the energy is what we get back. And which is why it really does matter. But I do see a lot of readers as well who sort of feed that for people. Do you know what I mean? So you've got somebody who will ask, and the majority of readers I see are amazing and they've all got their own gifts in their own ways. But you do see some who are out specifically for financial gain or and causing hurt to that person they're reading for by essentially, I'm not saying they're making it up, but I'm saying that they're taking things from tarot which is not what it's there. Do you know what I mean? And then ultimately hurting that person they're reading for by not genuinely being honest and saying, look, that's not what this is you for, that's not, do you know what I mean? So that person's desperate energy is then fed that little bit more, so they continue on their path in that desperate energy, rather than understanding. The reader could stop them at that point and say, look, it's all, and explain the you know, explain how it works, and allow that person to take that knowledge then and move forward more positively, rather than feed the sort of desperation that that person's got, which is ultimately, I feel, sometimes taking advantage of vulnerable people.
Yeah, because this is the danger, that
Yeah.
people see it as fortune telling, and
Yeah.
that you can say this is going to happen or that's going to happen. But there's a fine line, because there isn't, sometimes you do get
Yeah.
this is going to come through for you.
Yeah.
How does that happen? Is it because of the speed of the energy? So there's so much momentum in the energy that
It's the higher vibration energy it is. So when you're in that desperation and you've got these specific answers and you're so desperate to know this information, that's a slower vibration energy, which is a lower vibration energy. When you're in that higher vibration, the vibration is faster. And I was watching this, it's mad you've asked this question, because I was watching Dr. Joe Dispenza earlier this morning, and he was explaining about the speed of the different vibrations.
yeah.
And when you're in that higher vibration, the speed of the vibration is faster. But things do come in through the readings. I've had, you know, a couple of weeks ago, a lady come to me and she said to me, I've been having trouble having babies. And, you know, I said, look, I can't tell you you're ever going to have a baby, but what I can do is read the energy as it is. 3 weeks later, she came to me to tell me she was pregnant, and I told her that in the reading. It was the most honest, rewarding feeling in the world. But I did not know that was going to, do you know what I mean? They didn't say to me, oh, she's going to have a baby, but it just showed me that current energy. Do you know what I mean? And because the lady was open and she had no expectation, more come through the reading, like you said. It's not that desperation and that negative lower, you know. So you do get a lot, and you do get more comes through a reading, including things like that pregnancy, or although pregnancy is a touchy subject with tarot, but in that kind of sense, that's what it is because you're more open, you get more through the reading, which means more higher vibrational things do come through, if that makes sense.
So okay,
No,
so
just say it. Go on, say it.
you're
No,
giving that reading to this woman.
Yeah.
Is it that it's already there,
Yeah.
and that's what you're picking up on? Or like, because someone listening to this is still going to say, how could you tell that woman that it was coming? How did
I
where is
see
that
that?
message coming from?
Yeah, it's already happened. Yeah, if you went deeper again, right, and you look into it, us being multidimensional beings, this is already happened in another dimension. Obviously that's going a lot deeper, but that's where we're
Yeah.
picking the energy up from. And because the woman was in a position and a place emotionally in herself where she was giving off that higher vibration, then it gives us the ability to be able to see that future and that current energy. Not them lower vibrational frequencies which she would have been in it had she been, oh, I need a baby. Do you know what I mean? And so so essentially it's already happened on another dimension, which is our higher selves bringing us that information.
Okay.
If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. Makes sense to me, but it's just such a deep.
It is. It's a really
like
deep.
where.
And the thing is, they say to every decision, you say, for example, you say no to that decision, and on another dimension, you saying yes is happening. You know, it's a very
Yeah,
deep.
that blows my mind. That
It blows
does.
my mind too. Honestly, I've been watching the things today, and I'm just like, really? You know, I think we're all still a student every day, because it will continuously blow our minds, continuously.
Yeah. So we may end up circling back round to this.
Yeah.
But so someone's asked for a reading.
Yeah.
You can actually intuit and read the energy anyway.
Yeah.
Where do the cards come in then? What do the cards add to it?
It basically gives the person I'm reading for that visual interpretation, because as human beings, we like to see things. We like to see it with our own eyes. And they're a tool which is amazing for when you're first learning that you can interpret energy, and you've got this intuitive ability. And it is all based on intuition. For me, as a reader, I'm an intuitive reader. And growing up, I always knew I was different. I could pick up on things, I didn't understand that's what it was. But they are ultimately a gateway, like a portal to understanding and reading energy. And as my tarot journey's gone on, like, I don't need the cards now. I could read the energy without even looking at the cards, but they are purely a visual interpretation of the current energy, or whatever energy you're looking into. They're just for the eye to see. Because as humans, we like to see with our own eyes almost.
So what would you say to people who are using readings to continually get specific answers, like they actually live their life
A
by.
lot of people do. I gotta be honest, even at the beginning of my journey, I go into a situation, I'd be like, oh, I gotta ask the cards. And it's not healthy. It's really not healthy. The cards are purely a tool, a divination tool to get guidance. And for anybody watching that, is going to the cards for specific answers, it's not the way to successfully use tarot to better yourself, to get the outcomes that you want. The way to do that is to learn to trust your intuition, to grow your intuition, your self-worth and self-love, which in turn grows your intuition. Because the better you feel about yourself, the higher your vibration, which means your intuition. It all starts with self-love. And the more that you think of yourself and everything, the more you trust yourself, the more you trust your intuition, the more that things are generally going to go well for you. And when you use tarot in them ways, in the correct ways, they are a very, very beneficial tool. However, you're constantly going to be chasing something which is never going to happen. On the other side of it, if you're just obsessing about wanting specific answers, you're just going to see what you want to see, rather than actually taking what it's meant for and what is, because they can have massive positive effects on your life. Massive. Because nothing is set in stone. It's just giving you a current view of that energy. So you think to yourself, right, what can I do to maximize the use of this energy? How can I really use this energy to my advantage? Rather than going and saying, I've had a question before now on the phone lines, and the woman said to me, how many bedrooms is my future house going to have? I was just flabbergasted, like how
is that important to
how
really?
maybe think about the energies on how to get to that house rather
Yeah,
than but obviously everyone's in a different mental place when they go, and I've been there myself. I've been there and done it, especially at the beginning of my journey, because I was feeling, and I mean we're going back 5-7 years ago now, at the beginning of my healing journey, and I was expecting the world from them. I was expecting miracles from the poor things, I was expecting miracles, but they will also guide, even at that point where you're sort of obsessed with finding out these specific answers, because I think it does become an obsession for a lot of people. You will be guided to the correct use of it just by being sort of into that, but it's obviously going to take you a little bit of time to get to that. Which is hard. It is a hard aspect to witness, I gotta be honest.
I do know a lady who does readings, but her rule it is you cannot come back within 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because otherwise you'll just be back week after week asking for another.
Even now, I speak to the same women day after day, and I've got to be careful because, and I can't call them clients because I get to know these ladies and I would call them my friends. But very much like you, Jacqui, it ends up being a bit of life coaching rather than just tarot reading, because they are genuinely interested in the current energies and how to maximize the use of them rather than wanting to know specifics. In that case, it does. And for me personally, that's what I tend to focus my readings on, is more about guidance, positive moving forward, rather than focusing on what's coming in 3 months. Am I going to find love? It's more about a bit of life coaching, and I feel like an agony aunt a lot of the time as well. But that's what I tend to stay on the path of, rather than when is love coming in, except, do you know what I mean? So that if there is, and I have had them where I've had somebody come to me and week after week, and I will explain, and I will, like we're having a chat about it now, I will explain to the person how best to use it and move forward rather than focus, because for a lot of people it's financial, but I've always made a point of it not being about the money for me. So not that I'm saying I'm any better than anybody, that's not what I'm saying, but that is not my goal throughout my journey with this.
So your goal is to
help people, and I guess it's so rewarding, I cannot even lie. And to see a person click, to see a click for that person to realize that they are the creator of their own reality and that they can use these energies to their advantage. And you see them click, and you see their eyes light up, you see their soul light up, and that's, for me, is what it's about. Is about collectively helping people heal.
Yeah. So I think we've covered some of this, because one of the questions I had here was, what are the potential sort of pitfalls?
There's a lot. There's a huge, there really is. And majority of it comes from ego, from spiritual ego, and misinterpretations, misunderstandings, like we just discussed, about what the actual use of the tarot should be.
Yeah, because this was something we were discussing the other day, around even though you're reading the energy, you have to interpret what's coming to you, and therefore it goes through, the majority of the time, it takes a very, very experienced person to get completely out of the way and just let the message come through, rather than it come through their filter. So there is an element of it being I don't want to use the word tainted, but that's
No, it's
the
spot
word
on.
that's
Yeah,
is
that's the word.
yeah, it's kind of tainted by the filter of the particular reader.
Yeah.
Also, my understanding is not that I'm no, I
No,
don't do
you
it, so
are.
I don't
Yeah.
know, but my understanding is, or from what I've heard, it doesn't come in a linear sort of fashion. So you could get, it's almost like everything kind of comes in at once, and you have to pick through the layers of the.
Yeah. Comes in layers.
It doesn't come as Natalie,
No,
this
as
is going to
somebody
happen,
saying,
or
there's no one in your ear saying, this is how it's going to be. This is what you've got to say. The way it works, or the way it works, this is for me. It could be different for other people. I can only speak for me.
yeah,
I'll start reading for somebody, and for example, if that person's feeling down, depressed, and the majority of people, that's how it is. That's usually how they come in, because they require some sort of guidance, some sort of healing. And I'll instantly feel that when I'm in that, or even because we do a lot of it virtually now, we're connected. When I tap into that energy, it's like I connect to the energetic cord of that person. So I will instantly start to feel like my belly starts turning. I'll start having, if the person's having headaches, I'll have a bit of a headache. Or I've had it before now where my knees started throbbing. I don't struggle with my knees, but it turned out that that person was struggling with their knees. So they bring it, I say the higher and our higher selves bring it to us via like symbolism, a thought or feeling within ourselves. So it'll take us back to a time or memory which is relevant to that situation. Do you know what? So it sort of does, it is tainted by our own experiences and our own, things that happen to us to interpret that person's energy. It's not like somebody's just pops up in a corner of the room and goes, oh, nah, we got to do it. This is how they're feeling. It's not that. This is why it takes, and it happens gradually, to learn to understand the energy and to learn to understand the messages, the symbolism, and why it's so important to stay grounded and to be out walking, to be able to simmer down your own feelings and your own emotions. And when that reading takes you back, to example, for me, I do a lot of childhood trauma healing with a lot of my clients. And a lot of the imagery and things which come to me are from my own trauma. So it was absolutely paramount for me to have healed that trauma, to not be triggered every time I get taken back to that memory for a client. I don't want to say a client because I see him as my friend.
yeah,
But you know what I mean, for a reading or whatever. So it's paramount that our own personal healing has been dealt with. We're never fully healed, but you know what I mean? So that you're not triggered every time you're taken back to a difficult emotion.
yeah.
So that for me is how the readings come through.
Okay, fascinating.
This is why we have to go through so much as well. Sorry, Jacqui. This is and it happens for us, not to us, because as light workers, starseeds, however you want to resonate with it, that's why we have to go through so much. And we do, you know, you name it, we've been it, done it, bought the t-shirt, is because we need to be able to have that understanding and that of every circumstance for every person that's ever going to come in our path for guidance or for healing or for, even just a kind word of, for every person that comes in our path. Yeah, we need to be able to truly understand for that person to feel heard. And that's from my experience. It could be different for other readers, but for me, that's what I found is.
Yeah, it's sometimes difficult to appreciate that things are happening for you when they're
No,
not
and it is, it's
they're not
hard to,
that pleasant at the time.
yeah, because they are, but like it's only when I think when it's all over that you can truly do that, you know, and when you're at a place of peace and you think, oh my God, you know, at least you sort of make peace with that, knowing that it was for the greater good, for the place you're at now, for like, because I get such satisfaction, I'm not gonna lie, from, you know, the readings I do, from the people I meet, and just being able to truly make them feel heard. That for me is, I couldn't ask for a better feeling. And I really, I would change it if I could, don't get me wrong, but I can't. But it makes it all worth it. It really does for me.
Questions just popped into my head actually, which is not on my list of questions. Around timings, like a reading could say you're going to be really successful at this, or I don't know, you're
Coming
going
back
to
in
move
2 weeks
shortly,
and things,
or
yeah.
whatever it is. But
How do we get that time in?
yeah,
A number will pop into my, like, I've got a specific deck of cards I go to for numbers. The numbers on the corner of the card for me, I'd get like a number pop into my head, or a month will just pop into my head. And like I said, the more you trust your intuition, the more messages you get. So the more you practice, the more readings that go on, the more people you read for, the stronger these get. And I'd get months, I'd get days. But obviously it depends what energy the person you're reading for is in. If they're in that desperate energy, really, it's, for me, I get more around guiding that person to healing rather than focusing on giving them this specific. However, it comes like flashes and numbers. And when I say through my third eye, it's just in your mind. Through your mind's eye, you get like the number will pop into your head, a day of the week will pop into your head. Yeah, that's how it happens for me.
okay. You seem to have a particular focus on twin flames.
Oh, and non-intentionally, totally non-intentionally.
What are twin flames?
Oh, and it's crazy because I had a question of this on my social media this morning. Essentially, it's a healing journey. It's one form of a spiritual awakening. And what I found, the thing that links us all is trauma, the need to heal from trauma. And this person, they say that twin flames are one soul split into two bodies to raise the collective consciousness of unconditional love, to prove that love wins, love wins all the time. And basically is sent to, for you to heal, past traumas. And from my own personal experience of working with twin flames, one side will have a lack of self-love, will have, self-loathing, and the other side will not know love. They will not even know how to give or receive love. So it's about learning to love, or learning to not over love. Do you know what I mean? Because
So
and
the two polarities that
two polarities,
and
like,
you're trying to find a middle ground.
yeah, and uni, it's not a big love story. It's not this. I mean, and everyone thinks I want a twin flame. No, you don't. And I say this all the time. Do not wish it on yourself. It's basically about finding that inner balance, because along the journey, in usually starts with, although I can't say this for all because I've met a lot of twin flames and I've genuinely got the energy from the person that they are in a twin flame connection, but the dynamics has been, one, for example, she's been married 22 years and they've separated over the last 2 years because there was a need for both of them to heal. So I can't say that you start out, like it says, if you research it, you start out to have that first couple of weeks and then you separate. That is not the case for all twin flames. There's lots of different dynamics, but essentially you're brought together in union with a person. It usually ends in separation for you to to heal that wound which is inside yourself. I'm personally in a twin flame connection, although in separation, and I don't talk about it a lot on my channel only because I don't think they could handle that as well as their own. But and ultimately, you love this person so hard, and it hurts so much that you've got no choice but to look inwards. You've got no choice because it puts you to your knees, and it, you know, and then that causes you to look inwards and to realize that everything you've got is within yourself. You know, you learn that not to over love. You learn only to love when it's received. Do you know what I mean? To have that equal give and take, that equal balance. And only when you truly come into alignment with yourself do they say it's possible for union. Like I have had clarification. I've got to be careful because I don't know if he's going to see it, but from him to say that he totally agrees with this journey and that it's right. However, he's still on his healing process. But I didn't need that anyway, because for me, I found my self-worth and I'm on a spiritual journey regardless. So, and like I said, this is it's not this big love story. It's essentially a healing journey. It's part of the spiritual awakening. And if anything, I'm so grateful to it for opening me up to the level of healing that I've endured. Do you know what I mean? And 2 years ago, when I met him, never in a million years would I have sat by you and done this kind of thing on social media. I would never have, my TikTok channel, I would never in a million years have thought I'd be uploading content. Which is why I do make a lot of my content about self-growth, about loving yourself and just getting into that high vibration to attract things back to yourself, rather than focusing on the love story, because it's not a love story. It's one of the hardest journeys. I know it's one of the hardest journeys I've ever endured. It really, really is. I've written an ebook. Yeah, I put it away now, but I did get it out earlier. Because the amount of people I encounter which believe they're on a twin flame journey, they could be, who knows? And when I do a reading, it's not my place to say you're a twin flame or you're not a twin flame. I can just read the energy, and encourage that person to trust their intuition. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, so ultimately what I've ended up doing is guiding not just divine feminines, but divine masculines to really embark on the self-healing journey to raise their vibration and really stand in their role as a person on their own. As a person, know they are enough and that they are divine regardless of this twin flame connection, and that it doesn't make not a twin flame if they're not with them, because ultimately union is with yourself and nobody else, and that's the point. Go on.
Okay. So
Go on,
does that mean you're destined to have I hate destiny, that word destiny, but anyway, does it mean you're destined to have that separation? Like, or is the goal that you both come into union in and of yourselves so that you can come into union together?
Yeah, that's essentially, and the separation doesn't always happen, because I have met, and like I said, there seems to be this textbook way for a twin flame, like you get together, you separate. That I've worked with a twin flame couple who are together and growing in the couple, in the union. And that does not mean that they're not twin flames because they're not in separation. It just means that they are together growing. And that's cool too, because for them, like I said, I said to him, if you're feeling in a place, share this, because there are lots of people in the same position as you going through this who think that they're not in a twin flame connection because they're not separated, and that's not the case. I don't think there's one size fits all dynamic within a twin flame union. It's purely about becoming the best version of yourself and having inner union, so that you don't get all the toxicity and everything else which comes from, like, a lot of my previous relationships, I'm not gonna lie. But that's ultimately what I sent here. So I don't think that you have to be in separation to be a twin flame. No. I feel like that's a massive misinterpretation. And even the book I've written, it says that in there. Every dynamic, every twin flame dynamic is totally unique. And it's about trusting our own intuition, because it is our intuition that guides us to know this information. I didn't have a clue what a twin flame was at the beginning. I was introduced to it through watching you too. And then I was thinking, what's a twin flame? It was only because I thought, what's a twin flame? And then went into the research myself and found that a lot of the content, a lot of the information out there was totally misleading, and to the point where it was toxic, because it was making everybody question their own intuition, where that defeats the point. You're meant to trust where you're guided to go and what your intuition, never mind what that tarot reader on TikTok is saying. It's about you trusting. And that's what I try and make all my content around, is standing in your intuition and knowing and listening to your own voice, not other people's perspective.
So what I'm getting is what people are seeking are guarantees about things. And where we have to get to is there are no guarantees about anything.
Nothing.
And no reading is going to give you a guarantee.
Absolutely.
All that reading is going to do is say,
use the current energy.
This is what the current energy feels like.
Yeah.
And it suggests you're going in this sort of way, and this is how you should perhaps, or it might go this sort of way if you continue to do X, Y, Z, or if you continue in this energetic. But really, it's down to you. But what tends to happen is you say, if you continue in this energy, this is going to happen. And then they just think this is going to happen. And then it just happens because they've said, oh no, I've been told this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. And the thing is, as human beings, we've got free will. And like I said, I could say to you now, the energy is this. You could make a free will decision tomorrow, and that could totally change the energies, which is why it's about maximizing the potential of that energy. So if the energy is good, you continue what you're doing. Or if the energy is low and it's showing me, you're feeling, I'm seeing the Five of Pentacles in my head, because the Five of Pentacles is about feeling lonely, out in the cold, left out. Then you maximize the potential of that energy by doing something to change that energy. Do you know what I mean? Nothing, absolutely nothing is set in stone. And that's what tarot is there for, is guidance to get the most from it, rather than the opposite. Go on.
Or is it set in stone? Now, the reason I'm thinking that is because there's the whole fate versus creation of your...
Yeah, but see, this is where, like, the multidimensional thing comes into it, because for every for every decision you make, the opposite decision is happening in another reality.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, you've got the ability, which is how you've got the ability to, you know what I mean? You've got the ability to change the energy, because of the alternative is happening on a parallel universe. Not that I'm a professional, that's just from my own research and from what I found. But yeah, that's how.
Okay, so somewhere, this just does my head in, this does, but somewhere in some other parallel universe, you've made the opposite decision to what you're making now, and you're actually living out that opposite decision.
Yeah, I know, it's mind-blowing.
My
It's
head in.
absolutely mind-blowing, isn't it? And the thing is, because you'll never make sense of it. You'll never actually fully be able to explain it in your brain, because it's beyond our capabilities of doing, isn't it? You know, the kind
Yeah.
of thing. And it's science, isn't it? It's ultimately comes back to science and physics, and that's what it ultimately comes down to. And I weren't great at science, I'm not gonna lie. But you know, from my own research, yeah, that's how it is.
Mm. So yeah, so the understanding that I've been given is that you actually made certain decisions as a soul choice before incarnating.
Yeah, and then as a human, you get the free will decision, so you get to go against that, which is why we say when you want to align with your highest timeline is you making the best decision. You know, with every free will choice, you making the soul decision, the authentic decision from your heart. That's you aligning with your highest timeline, aligning with your best self. Whereas you've got free will. We've all got free will. You know, we could choose right, I can either heal now, or I can choose the easy option and just keep going as I am. Then you're going to keep making these free will decisions, which is not aligning with your highest timeline, because it's not actually what you want. You're just choosing that way because it's easier. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. No, I think I've taken the hard road in every every
Yeah,
step of it.
Jacqui, on your own. Honestly, we all like to learn things the hard way.
Okay, so do you have, I know you do a lot of collective readings anyway, but are there any key messages that you have for the collective?
Oh, can I pull a card? Can I pull a card?
Yeah.
What is, I got this deck, right? This is called the Work Electoral. And when I first connected with my intuition, when I first connected with cards, this was the first deck. And it's not a tarot deck. It doesn't give big messages, but basically it gives you things to do to connect with your light being, to, with your healing journey, right? So let's give it a shuffle. I'm really, really picking up to stand in your truth, stand in what you believe, proudly, because it's inspiring, it's making a difference, and that's really what I'm feeling. Don't quieten your voice down, be heard, because trust the needle. I just seen there. Let's get the cards. Soul family, calling your tribe. You don't have to do it alone. And look at the cards. This is what I loved about them, was the imagery.
Yeah.
It's really like pretty and really, and see, for what we are going through, this is what I'm picking up from this card now. The imagery is what I'm looking at, and where the imagery is drawing me. And I'm drawn to the way, for everything we go through, there's a person going through exactly the same. For every thought we have, there's a person having that exact same thought. So there's no silly question, there's no silly thought. Because we're all having it. If we're having it, there's guarantee there's somebody else out there. So stand in your truth and be proud of it. And this other one is called Warrior Woman. It says, have you answered your deepest calling? And see, she stood there, and I'm drawn to that being the sword of truth. Stand in your truth strongly, proudly, because it's inspiring, and one step at a time is changing the world. The world as we know it is changing massively, and it'd be a much, much nicer place to live if everybody had the thoughts, feelings that we have. It'd be a much nicer place to live when everyone be kind to each other. They wouldn't know what to do with it. But yeah, that's the message I've got collectively, is stand in your truth, proud, because you're inspiring people.
Yeah. That brings in all the thoughts about New Earth and all that, but that's probably for another another
I could sit there all
conversation.
day. And
Yeah.
especially over the news the last few days has been intriguing. I was watching the whistleblower interview on it was even on BBC News, which is surprising. And I was thinking, no way. Even believing what I believe and having the
Yeah.
beliefs I've got, I was still like, what? Really? But it's exciting. What an exciting time to be alive.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So I know that you do other things. You're not just a tarot
No.
reader. Actually, before we get to that, what's the difference between angel cards, oracle decks?
Oh,
You
angel cards and oracle decks are just kinder. They're just a bit kinder. And like, for example, oh my God, look, I just pulled this called Lemuria, creating heaven on earth is happening. Oh, look at that.
That's
Tranquil.
New Earth.
Yeah, New Earth, exactly what we just said.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these angel cards are more, they're kinder, they're softer, tarot cards can be really deep and in depth. The imagery on them is quite, and it's basically the understanding, to be able to understand the cards and what they mean. Whereas angel oracle decks usually give you the, the description, or they're pretty self-explanatory. Whereas they say there's a skill to reading tarot. I'm not so sure. I think it's more intuitively and what you're drawn to, but obviously everybody's different. But angel and oracle cards are just a lot softer, a lot easier to read.
Okay. Good, good, good. Okay, so what else do you do?
Well, I first and foremost, I'm a mother of two, which led me to my path really, because I got divorced 2 years ago, before the whole twin flame, and I needed to find a way to make it work so I could be at home all the time, because I do it on my own.
Yeah.
So I started making jewelry with the intention of just making a couple of quid on the side. So I started off in my bedroom, in the corner of my bedroom, not the bedroom I'm in now, but my other bedroom, making some crystal healing jewelry, and because it was something I was really drawn to. And it slowly picked up over time. I was reading cards, but not like I am now. And then I don't even know what made me start uploading to TikTok. I have no idea what made. It was just like, I'm just going to start sharing it. I just was drawn to do it.
Mm.
So yeah, I make crystal healing jewelry. A lot of it with the intention of helping a certain ailment. Usually anxiety. Like I make a range of fidget necklaces so that you can wear them and fidget with them to help anxiety and things like that. Yeah, and that's where I started, was the jewelry and the crystals. And then I went on to the tarot, which was just started off collectively. I had no intention of leading to where I've got to, and it's turned into, like we were discussing the other day, a bit of intuitive life coaching, I suppose. I'm like a bit of an agony aunt a lot of the time, because people just want to be heard. The majority of the time, people just want to be heard, and I love it. I love it.
That's the main thing, I think. Someone actually listening
Yeah,
to you. And actually, I did a post the other day about sometimes when something's just going around in your head, it just feels so big and insurmountable. But when you're actually talking to someone and they're truly listening to you, and you then say something out loud, it
it's
kind
like
of
you cut
can
it in
diminish
half,
it. It's
isn't it?
kind of like,
Yeah,
actually, why did I think it was that big of a deal? It's actually not really that big of a deal.
yeah, yeah. Like cuts it in half, doesn't it? Just by,
Yeah.
and I do focus a lot of my work on like journaling and writing your feelings out, and things like that. I've done along the way, like within readings, I've created digital downloads, digital documents to sort of help the general problems and issues that I find a lot of people are facing. So like journaling, self-love workbooks. There's another one I've done, the inner child healing workbook, to just prompt some questions for them to identify where it is they need healing, or where it is they need to focus, they need healing. Do you know what I mean? So it sort of turned into like one big sort of circle of things to help the other one out. Do you know what I mean? Like the crystal healing to help like ease the side effects. And so I do tend, I'll have a reading with somebody, and then instantly I send them all the documents. I'm like, have a read through that book, have a look through that workbook, and then have some crystal jewelry just to help with the side effects. So it's sort of turned into like one big full circle of it. And I have jumped in and just done it full time. Some weeks are easier than others.
Yeah.
But I'm absolutely loving it. And I urge anybody that's questioning, should I follow my heart? Should I follow my passion? Should I do something? You know, do it. Just go for it. Believe in yourself.
Yes.
Believe in
So,
yourself.
where can people find you?
Well, I'm on TikTok is primarily where I upload. I do upload onto Instagram and Facebook. We'll put the link for my website and everything down in the description box. Yeah, you can contact me via my website. There's a chat option. All my products and services are on the website, and I upload onto TikTok every day. You can contact me via any of the sites. Yeah.
I know you're definitely on Instagram now.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Facebook as well.
Yeah, I'm on all of them. Yeah, and they're all linked. You know, and it's Natalie Briggs on Facebook, and NLS Emporium, which is a bit of a difficult one. You'd think I'd have thought about that, but I obviously made the name like long before I realised that it was going to be important to be able to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're all linked from my TikTok and from my website. My website is buttons. You can just click and it takes you straight there. Yeah.
Good.
But
Anything else coming to you that you feel you would want to share?
just believe in yourself. Just really, really believe in yourself. I feel like I'm floating on cloud nine, Jack. I'm not gonna lie, right? I'm really floating, and I feel, you know, anything is possible. Never ever limit yourself by thinking, I can't do that. I can't, you know, I literally started making jewelry from the corner of my bedroom, sat on the floor. I didn't even have a stool. You know, I had a gift set I had for Christmas with some crystal beads in and a bit of wire. And 2 years down the line, you know, I've got a fully fledged website with like over 100 products on. I'm working with people on a daily basis. Just believe in yourself, because anything is possible. You know, anything is possible.
Yeah. Good. It's been lovely. Is there anything you wanted to ask me even? I don't know.
No, Jacqui, you're amazing. You're amazing. I just want to say that. No, you
Oh,
are.
thank you.
You've made me feel so at ease, and you know, genuinely listening and really, and you're amazing. You really
Oh,
are.
thank you. Thank you so much. I'm actually also interested in the crystal stuff, because you obviously probably also have a lot of knowledge around the different crystals and what they do and
Yeah.
what they mean and blah blah blah. But that would be another hour-long conversation. So
Anytime I'm yours.
So,
Anytime at
yeah.
all.
So yeah, no, it's been really lovely talking to you. So I am going to put everything in the description underneath the video, fingers crossed.
You will. You're gonna smash
When
it.
I upload, hopefully I won't forget to do anything. But thank you so much, Natalie, for your time and for being as lovely and warm as you are, because we just connected instantly.
Yeah.
And yeah, for just being you.
And thank you for having me, because I am honoured. I'm not even gonna lie. I feel honoured. I really
You're
do.
welcome. And we're going to share to socials, so everyone.
Yeah. We'll get it up. Yeah, we'll definitely get it up. I'll do a video on it when I get it out. But thank you very much for having me. I've loved every second of it.
You're welcome. I am going to stop the recording so that's the bit I can upload, but don't go because we can have a goodbye off camera.
Okay, yeah, no worries.
Okay,
Thanks,
all
Jack.
right,
Thank
take
you.
care.
Bye.
Bye.